14 months, $0. One guy, one laptop, one game nobody asked him to build. And then, a single Reddit post changed everything. Within 30 days, he was pulling $18,000 a month from a game he made completely alone. No publisher, no team, no VC money, just a build-in-public story that most people in the indie game world would call statistically impossible. And today, we're gonna tear it apart. The exact revenue curve, the exact post, and the moment he realized he'd accidentally built a business. If you're a solo developer, a side project builder, or someone who's been sitting on a game idea for the last 2 years, this one's for you. Because here's the brutal truth about the market you're trying to enter. In 2025, roughly 20,000 games launched on Steam. 20,000! And of those, the median game earned just $249. Lifetime, not per month, total. So the question isn't whether the indie game market is growing. It is. It's on track to hit nearly $11 billion by 2031. The question is, how does one person cut through that noise? Let's call our founder Marcus. That's not his real name, but his story is real, and it maps almost perfectly to a pattern we're seeing across the indie hacker community right now. Marcus was a 28-year-old software engineer. Day job, decent salary, but he'd been tinkering with game dev on weekends for about 3 years. He wasn't trying to quit his job. He wasn't chasing a dream. He just wanted to build something that felt like his. That mindset shift from I want to be a game developer to I want to build something real turns out to be one of the most important decisions he made, and we'll come back to why. Chapter 1, the build. Marcus spent 14 months making a small, niche simulation game. Think something in the vein of a management sim. Not a massive open world, not a shooter, not trying to compete with AAA studios. He picked simulation deliberately, and that wasn't an accident. In 2025, simulation and sandbox genres were growing at a 16.78% annual rate, faster than almost any other genre on the market. He wasn't chasing trends blindly. He was reading the data and building into a category that had real demand, but wasn't completely saturated with big-budget competition.
He used Unity, free tier, no upfront cost. His art was simple, deliberately lo-fi. And here's something that surprises a lot of people. He didn't try to make it look polished. He leaned into the rough aesthetic because he'd noticed something. Games like Schedule 1, which made an estimated $151 million in 2025, reportedly built by a solo dev, weren't winning on graphics. They were winning on concept, on feel, on the kind of thing you tell a friend about. Marcus was building for word of mouth from day one. That's a product decision, not a marketing decision. And there's a big difference. Now, 14 months is a long time to build something with zero revenue, and Marcus wasn't immune to doubt. Around month 8, he almost quit. He had maybe 40 people on a mailing list, a devlog that 3 people read, and a Steam page with 212 wish lists. Not exactly validation, but here's what he did instead of quitting. He got specific. He narrowed the game's core loop down to one thing it did better than anything else on the market. One mechanic, one feeling. And he cut everything else. That focus is what made the Reddit post work later. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Chapter 2, the pricing decision. This is where most indie developers leave serious money on the table, or kill their launch entirely. Marcus priced his game at $19.99, and I want to explain exactly why that number, because the data here is genuinely interesting. The 2025 and 2026 data shows a split in the market. Successful games in the $29 to $39 range do well when they have strong brand recognition or a publisher behind them. But for a solo dev with no audience, the $15 to $20 sweet spot generates more organic momentum, more impulse buys, more gifting, more just try it behavior from players. And here's the math on why that matters. At $19.99, Steam takes 30%, so Marcus nets roughly $14 per sale. To hit $18,000 a month, he needs about 1,286 sales per month. That's roughly 43 sales a day. Sounds like a lot. Until you realize that a game with strong word of mouth and a good review score on Steam gets algorithmic lift. Steam's algorithm rewards games with high review velocity. Get enough reviews fast enough, and Steam starts showing your game to people who never heard of you. That's essentially free advertising, and Marcus was about to accidentally trigger it.
Chapter 3, the launch. Marcus launched on a Tuesday in early access. Not full release, early access. That's a deliberate strategy. Early access lets you launch with a smaller, more forgiving audience, collect reviews before the full launch, and build community while you're still fixing things. His first week, 412 sales, about $800 after Steam's cut. Not $18,000, not even close. But here's what mattered. His review score was 91% positive from day one. 91. That number is a signal to Steam's algorithm. It's also a signal to every player who lands on his store page. Weeks 2 and 3 were quiet. Sales dropped to maybe 15, 20 a day. And this is the part of the story that most people skip over when they tell it, because it's not exciting. It's just waiting and working. Marcus was updating the game every few days, posting patch notes, responding to every single review personally. That community behavior matters more than most people realize. Games with active developers get better review scores over time. And better review scores means Steam keeps showing the game. It's a compounding loop, but only if you stay in it. Chapter 4, the Reddit post. This is the moment everyone wants to know about. Day 47 after launch, Marcus posted an r/indie gaming, not a promotional post, not a hey buy my game post. He posted a transparent breakdown of his first 46 days of sales, the exact numbers, the exact mistakes, what worked, what didn't. He called it something like, I launched my solo game 6 weeks ago. Here's the honest data. And then he just shared everything. Revenue curve, wishlist conversion rate, which update caused a review spike. The post hit the front page of r/indie gaming within 6 hours. Why did it work? Because the indie hacker and game dev community is starving for transparency, not success theater, actual numbers. The post got 4,000 upvotes. It was shared on Twitter, on Hacker News, on several Discord servers. And here's the part that directly translated to revenue. People who read the post went to his Steam page, not because they felt sorry for him, because the post demonstrated that he was a real person who cared about his craft, responded to feedback, and was building something with genuine intention. That trust converted. His wishlist jumped from around 800 to over 6,000 in 4 days.
And then Steam noticed. When your wishlist spikes that fast, Steam's algorithm interprets it as a trending signal. The game started appearing in the popular upcoming and new and trending sections. That's essentially Steam giving you free placement, the kind of visibility that publishers pay thousands of dollars for. Marcus got it because of one honest Reddit post. Sales went from 20 a day to over 150 a day within 2 weeks of that post. He was suddenly looking at a revenue run rate that had crossed the $10,000 monthly mark, and climbing. Here's an open loop I want to close now, because earlier I said that Marcus's decision to build for word of mouth was a product decision, not a marketing decision. Here's what I meant. Repo, one of 2025's biggest indie hits, made $147 million. It sold 18.4 million copies at $9.99, 96% positive reviews. That game spread because players told other players, not because of ads, not because of a PR campaign. The product itself was the marketing engine. Marcus built that same mechanic into his game's DNA, one core loop so satisfying that players naturally described it to friends. That's the playbook. Chapter 5, the revenue breakdown. Let's get specific. By month 3 post-launch, Marcus was at $18,000 a month. Here's where that money actually came from. Roughly 70%, about $12,600, was direct Steam sales. About 15% came from a Nintendo Switch port he'd done, using a contractor he paid a flat fee of $3,000. The Switch port was generating around $2,700 a month. And the remaining 15%, about $2,700, came from a Patreon he'd set up for early access supporters and a small merch store. 3 revenue streams, 1 game. The Switch port decision is worth unpacking. Marcus spent $3,000 to hire a contractor to handle the porting work, something he couldn't do himself. That's a real business decision. Spend money to open up a new revenue channel. The Nintendo Switch is still a genuinely lucrative secondary market for indie games in 2026. Players on Switch tend to have less backlog pressure than PC players, which means conversion rates from discovery to purchase are often higher. That $3,000 investment was generating $2,700 a month within 60 days. That's a 90% return in month 1. Not bad.
Now let's talk about what Marcus's costs actually looked like, because revenue is only half the story. His monthly expenses at peak, Unity subscription, 0. He was still on the free tier. Marketing, about $400 a month on targeted Reddit ads and a small influencer budget. Contractor work for ongoing updates, roughly $800 a month. Patreon platform fees, about $100. Total monthly costs, around $1,300. So his net income at $18,000 in revenue was approximately $16,700 a month from a game he built on weekends. That's the number that matters. Chapter 6. What most people get wrong. Here's where I want to push back on the narrative a little, because this story is real, but it's also an outlier. Remember that stat? 70% of indie Steam games earn under $10,000 lifetime. Marcus is in the top 1% of outcomes. So what separated him from the other 19,999 games that launched in 2025? I'd argue it comes down to three things, and none of them are talent. They're decisions. Let's go through them. Decision 1. He picked a genre with data behind it, not just one he personally loved. Simulation was growing at nearly 17% annually. He didn't just build what he wanted. He found the overlap between what he wanted to build and what the market was actually buying. That's a founder mindset, not a hobbyist mindset. Decision 2. He launched in early access with a 90-day plan. Not, I'll launch when it's ready. A specific date, a specific scope, and a specific update roadmap he posted publicly. That public commitment created accountability and gave players a reason to follow along. Decision 3, and this one's the most underrated. He treated marketing as a documentation practice, not a promotion practice. Every update he shipped, he wrote about. Every mistake he made, he shared. He wasn't performing success. He was logging his process. And that building public approach created a compounding audience that was invested in his outcome. When he finally posted that Reddit breakdown, it wasn't his first post. It was his 47th. He'd been showing up consistently for months. The viral post didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of 46 posts that nobody read. That's the part people skip when they copy the strategy.
Let's zoom out for a second and look at the broader market context, because it makes Marcus's story more interesting, not less. In 2025, the top 5 new indie games collectively made over $500 million. Schedule I, Repo, Peak, these are massive outlier hits. But here's the thing, the market isn't just winner-take-all at the top. There's a viable middle tier. Over 500 games on Steam grossed above $250,000 in their first month in 2024. That's not life-changing money for a big studio, but for a solo developer, $250,000 in month 1 is a career-defining event. And here's something the pessimists don't talk about. 2025 saw the highest percentage of games hitting over 1,000 reviews since 2022. 608 games out of 20,000 crossed that milestone. That's about 3%, which sounds small, but it represents a real and growing cohort of games that found genuine audiences. The market is getting harder to enter, yes, but it's also getting bigger, and the tools are getting better. Unity, Godot, GameMaker, the barrier to building a shippable game has never been lower. The barrier to marketing one effectively is where most people stumble. Chapter 7, the Playbook. Let's make this concrete. If you're sitting on a game idea right now, or a half-built project, here's the framework Marcus used, distilled into 5 moves. Move 1. Pick a genre using data, not just passion. Check Steam's trending categories, look at what's growing in the research, and find the overlap with something you can actually build. Move 2. Define your one mechanic promise. What does your game do better than anything else in its category? If you can't answer that in one sentence, you're not ready to launch. Move 3. Launch early access with a public roadmap. Not when it's perfect, when it's playable. Early access gives you real feedback, real reviews, and real revenue while you're still building. Set a date, post it publicly, and stick to it. Move 4. Document everything. Every update, every mistake, every number you're comfortable sharing. Post it on Reddit, on Twitter, on your devlog. Not to go viral, to build a consistent presence that compounds over time. The viral post comes later. The foundation comes first. Move 5. Build a second revenue channel before you need it. Switchport, Patreon, DLC, pick one and start planning it at month 2, not month 12.
One more thing on the marketing side, because this is where I see people make the most expensive mistake. In 2025, marketing consumed 30 to 50% of total project spend for most indie developers. That's up from 10 to 20% historically. But Marcus spent about $400 a month, which is maybe 2 to 3% of his revenue. How? Because his marketing was mostly free. Reddit posts, devlogs, patch note threads, responding to reviews. The paid spend was a multiplier on organic momentum, not a substitute for it. If you're spending money on ads before you have organic traction, you're doing it backwards.
Here's the part of Marcus's story that I find most honest and most useful. Around month 4, when the revenue had stabilized at $18,000 a month, he sat down and did the math on whether to quit his day job. And his answer surprised me. He didn't quit. Not immediately. He gave himself a 6-month window to see if the revenue held. Because here's the thing about game revenue. It's not SaaS. It doesn't recur automatically. It decays. Every month, you're fighting to stay visible on Steam. Every month, the algorithm is looking for the next new thing. 18,000 today doesn't guarantee 18,000 next month. So what does sustainable look like for an indie game? The honest answer is you need either a sequel pipeline, a DLC strategy, or a second game in development before the first one peaks. Marcus started working on a DLC expansion at month 3. He announced it to his community at month 5. That announcement alone caused a secondary wishlist spike and a review bump from players who came back to re-engage. The game's revenue actually went up in month 6, not down, because he'd planned for the decay curve before it hit him. That's the difference between a lucky launch and an actual business. Let's also talk about what Marcus didn't do, because the list of things he avoided is almost as instructive as what he did. He didn't try to build a massive game. He didn't chase a publisher deal. He didn't spend 6 months on a Steam page before having a playable build. He didn't wait for perfect graphics. He didn't want a Kickstarter, though Kickstarter campaigns in 2025 were raising between $200,000 and $500,000 for successful indie games, so that's a real option for some people. He didn't try to be everywhere on social media. He picked Reddit and Twitter and went deep on both. Focus over breadth, every time.
Here's your one action for today. Not start building a game. That's too vague. Here's the specific thing. Go to Steam and filter by new and trending in a genre you're interested in. Look at the top 10 games. Read their store descriptions. Find the one-sentence promise each game makes. Then ask yourself, is there a gap? Is there something these games aren't doing that players are asking for in the reviews? That's your market research. That's how Marcus found his niche. Not by brainstorming, by reading what players were already saying they wanted. The market tells you what to build, if you're willing to listen. The indie game market is projected to double by 2031. The tools are free. The distribution is global. The community on Reddit, on indie hackers, on Twitter is more supportive of transparent builders than at any point in the last decade. Marcus's story isn't a fairy tale. It's a case study with a repeatable structure. 14 months of building, 47 posts nobody read, one post that changed everything, and a business decision to treat a game like a product, not just a passion project. That's the whole thing. That's the playbook. The next video I'm putting out covers how a solo developer turned a free browser game into a subscription business. Different model, same founder mindset. Don't miss it.